Ready? Three. This is so scary. Because once I'm on, I'm on. Alrighty, ready. Three, two, one. Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Red Thoughts with Perry.Picasshoe. I am your host, Perry.Picasshoe. And welcome to the first official pilot episode. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while now, but I've just been very anxious and also just sort of had like a lot of other things get in the way. And so now I'm like ready to finally sit down and film this. And I'm so excited to do this already. I guess I want to first start off by explaining just like the general vibe of what I want the podcast / kind of more like video essay, I guess, but I think just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call this a podcast. And so essentially, this podcast is going to be a supplemental material to a blog that I'm writing on my website. And so they're kind of going to be like in tangent, almost like, like sisters. Like one, you can't have one without the other. Well, I mean, I guess you can, but they're meant to sort of like support and uplift each other, where one fails, the other will uplift and whatnot. And so, so this is going to be a lot more just like casual conversations in which I just kind of like talk about the ideas of the blog and expand upon them and sort of allow myself to have more like tangential conversations and whatnot. So that way it's like a bit more of like in, what is it called? Free form thought, open dialogue discussion. So that way we can all like chat in here and I guess now that you have sort of a general idea of what I want the podcast to be, I'm going to just kind of give you a little like life update essentially, because I haven't really gone on YouTube or really just like sat down and just like chatted with y'all in like quite a while. I used to do, like more long form content, like YouTube videos essentially, and like more just like casual conversations with you, but I just have stopped doing that. And I really miss it. Like I used to go live streaming and just like sit there and just like talk to y'all. And I just think that life has just gone so hectic. And I've also have just kind of like grown a little scared of the internet, and not gonna lie, and just like putting yourself out there. Cause it's just, the internet is just kind of like a scary place. And especially when you're young and have just like so many like people and talking left and right that it's like overwhelming. And now that I'm a bit older and have more time and whatnot, I'm like, I really want to sit down and get back to those, those like fun moments that I used to have. Yeah, so as of recording right now, I am 23 years old. I am a queer Chicano artist right here in Riverside, California. If for those of y'all outside of California, basically means like the southern part of California. I'm like 40 minutes from LA. And I enjoy I'm a photographer, painter. I love fashion and I want to like design clothes and whatnot. What else? I graduated from UCLA last year with a degree in a Bachelor of Arts. Went through fucking hell and back to get that degree, but I have it now. I graduated from there and then was living out there in LA for a bit and then moved back out here to Riverside. And now that I'm here, I quit my job working at a thrift store about like, what was that? That was in like June. About like 3-ish months ago. And so now art is my full-time job, which I'm very grateful to be able to say. Now that this has sort of become more like a full-time opportunity and whatnot, I really want to just take advantage of this situation and just make the most of it. I have just like so many projects and so many things I want to do. And I want to I just want to do it. And I'm going to like explain to y'all all the things I want to do. But before I sort of get into all the things I want to do, I wanted to make this podcast essentially to explain the philosophy of my art and what I believe. You know, I wanted to really like lay down the foundation and the grounds of what it is that I enjoy about art and like why I, you know, love it so much. So that way you guys can have a much better understanding of it. And that way, like moving forward, this will be like a good foundation. So that way it'll be like, oh, that's why they do this. It's because of like their philosophy of art, and like it all like makes sense, you know, like this will be like a good like reference point. Now that I have sort of explained a bit of myself and like what my goals and intention of this podcast, I'm gonna slowly now transition into my art philosophy, or the philosophy of my art, and why I believe you should buy my art before I'm dead. Okay, so my new sort of slogan, I guess you could say, is art should be lived in. And also, I'm like printed out my blog just so I can like look at and reference, because I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, art should be lived in. This is more than just like a casual, just kind of like throwaway slogan. It's kind of like an actual like belief in which I have, and that like expression of art should be lived in is actually comes from another phrase that my mom always told me, which is "Tráeme flores mientras que estoy aquí, porque no hay punto en traerle flores a al cementerio," you know, which is like, bring me flowers while I'm still here, because there's no point in bringing them to a grave. It's a bit of a grim, a bit dark, I know. But essentially, I mean, it's exactly what it says, you know, like bring someone flowers while they're still here, because once they're gone, they're not able to enjoy the flowers anymore. You know, like it's unfortunate that they can't smell the flowers, they can't see the flowers, they can't touch the flowers, whatever the fuck. They can't enjoy the flowers essentially. And like now that is more of for you than the person that they're originally meant for. You know, and like not being able to, that person is no longer able to receive that joy and love and affection because they're dead. You know, point blank, they're gone. Yeah, and so I was just like always like really thinking about that, and like, you know, I, after like hearing my mom say that for so long and whatnot, like now bringing flowers is something that I do and try my best to just like just like I try my best to keep that practice of like every time I'm gonna go see someone I haven't seen in a while, or it doesn't even have to be someone I haven't seen in a while. It's just like whenever I'm gonna go see someone, I like to bring them flowers. I remember in like high school, even I would like go on like even I would like literally go on like runs. Like I used to love running, and I would go on like, you know, like a 5 mile run around the fucking city or whatever. And like as I would run, there'd be, you know, like little flowers that would be sticking out of the ground or like in like random ass little patches, and I would like cut them and like put them in my hair and then run. And then like if I'd see someone, I would literally just be like, "Oh, here you go, a flower," you know? And like I would go running to like some of my friends and like knock on their door and be like, "Here, I'm on a run, but I just want to stop by and give you this flower because I thought of you." And I used to like love doing that. And like even like if I was at school and like at UCLA, like I'd see flowers in a bush, I'd cut it and like give it to like a friend that I'd go see later for like brunch or whatever. And then so yeah, it's, and like when I go to like see people and like whatnot, I try my best to give people flowers, like literal flowers, but also just like metaphorical flowers as well, like complimenting and loving people and showing them and whatnot. And so, yeah, I tried my best to keep that practice. And like another sort of thing that really got me thinking about this was when my grandpa unfortunately passed away during COVID. And when he did, and we were all gathered together at, you know, the cemetery and whatnot, I remember the mariachi was playing, and like my dad being just like so upset that the mariachi was playing now instead of like when he was alive, you know? This when my grandpa was still here. And I remember him just being like, just like really just like upset that we couldn't give that to him, until now that he's gone, and like we weren't able to like meet up and, as a family together in a while until this very moment. And it's really unfortunate because like since then, like we haven't really back together since then. And I remember just like when he like said that it like really clicked to me that I'm like, yeah, that really is unfortunate that like now, that he's gone, that we're like going to great extents to do something like this. And like, it just got me, yeah, just like thinking more about telling people you love them and appreciating them while they still can and whatnot. Yeah. And then so I know this is all just kind of like, okay, thank you for telling me your life story. How does this relate to art? And trust me, I'm getting there. Okay. I'm getting there. And so anyways, and, when I was 17, I also had this, drop my little book. When I was 17, I used to have this, a slogan and expression, or when I was 17, sorry, I created this, slogan at the time, which was buy my art before I'm dead. And like, that was such a like bold statement. And like, people used to think that they were like, is this a threat? Are you about to like, unalive yourself? Like, why are you telling us this? And I was like, no. Like, it's not a threat. I promise you. And I think that expression just sort of like grew or came from the expression my mom said of like, bring me flowers while I'm still here. Except I just sort of like made it more intense, and like I didn't realize it until like now that years have gone by, then I'm like, oh, that's where that came from, And so, yeah. And so when I like made that expression though at like 17-ish, that was at the time it was more thinking about like literal art though, and how a lot of artists are only ever appreciated and valued once they're gone. And one of the big ones that I was really thinking about at the time was Vincent van Gogh, because I was an art hoe. I loved me some Van Gogh. I still very much love him, and like so many of my works are just like in like reference or homage to him in like one way or another, whether it be like the textures or the colors and whatnot. And so yeah, he's always been a favorite of mine, and I remember just being like so upset, and like when I would like read the history about him and how he was not really valued or appreciated during like his lifetime. And it was, everyone thought that he was just like a madman and like, oh, don't talk to him, don't whatever. And like what's it called? He, passed away, unfortunately, without like ever having like really sold a piece. And like there was like a Doctor Who episode in which they like go back in time and like bring him to the future and show him like, look, everyone like loves your work and whatnot. And like he like goes and sees it and like starts crying and whatnot. And I was like, oh, that's so sad. And like it really just like broke my heart to like read that and like see that. Sorry. And yeah, and like I just like thought like, well, what would have happened if he did get like a little bit more love during his time and whatnot. And I was also just very much thinking about how when artists are alive, their work is not, priced very well, but like once they die, the price of their work like skyrockets to God knows how much, And I just got really upset at thinking like, damn, because I also grew up very fucking poor, and I was like, why, like why would I not? I used to think that like I wouldn't see success until once I was dead, and I was like, is my work only more valuable once I'm gone? And it just like really just like sent me into like a whole like panic and sort of feeling of like, that's why I was always telling people like, you should buy my art before I'm dead, so that way I can still receive those funds and live my life, and be able to do things, versus when I'm gone, then it's like, well, who's that money going to now? A random ass organization, like Bob Ross doesn't even, like his family doesn't even own any of his fucking, the rights to his image. So like anytime anyone buys anything Bob Ross, like his family is entitled to like not even a fucking cent to that, and it's like so unfortunate. And like that was just sort of like where all of my thoughts were at the time of like, being frustrated that I wouldn't be appreciated, wouldn't be it would yeah, I guess it was just more of like I wouldn't be able to see success until I was dead, you know? Which is really unfortunate to like have to think, you know, because it's like how do I what am I supposed to do, you know? And yeah. And like, you know, this is also just not just for Van Gogh, but just like every other artist you can like probably fucking think of in history, in which, you know, their works are not shown or appreciated or whatever until they're gone. I keep repeating that and I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay. And so, and a similar note to kind of this, but in a more less of a person and more just like an object, I think about, you know, companies like Louis Vuitton and like this is like why I personally love the brand so much. So for me, when I think of Louis and like one, I mean, I guess it's not just me. It really is just like a core part of the brand, which is their slogan is like the spirit of travel or something like that. And you know, when like Vuitton was first coming out, they were known as a trunk manufacturer company, and so a lot of their when they first started off was the idea of like traveling with your luggage and like having your luggage be, you know, something that like is durable and you bring with you everywhere and whatnot. And like, and so like the idea of their traveling and whatnot has always like stuck with the brand. And especially when you think of like their handbags, the two of which I really appreciate, which are the Speedy and the Keep All. And so for those of you that don't know, Speedy, I guess I should start off with the Keep All. So Keep All is basically a duffel bag. Like, let me show you mine. This is my Keep All. I love her so much. Okay. So the Keep All is basically, it's just like a duffel bag in which you're supposed to use for, you know, like your long trips and whatnot. And Speedy is that same duffel bag silhouette, except half or a third of its size. And it's supposed to be for more like on the go, sort of like you put your things in and go because it's speedy on the go, you know? Very clever. A fun fact, I believe that bag was actually made, the Speedy was made for Audrey Hepburn because she like loved the Keep On, was like, you guys should make this smaller so I can have this more, be able to like travel with it more. And so they made the Speedy for her and now we have it. I really want one. Anyways, and so what makes those sort of bags so special is that they have vachetta leather. And so usually when you have like a leather bag or like parts that include leather, they are treated. And so they have like a coating on top of the leather to help prevent it from getting damaged over time and like changing colors and whatnot. And it's supposed to like help keep the leather, keep its like color, keep its whatever. But vachetta leather is basically unglazed or untreated leather. It's just the raw leather for the most part. And so what happens with it is as time passes by and as you like use the bag more, the leather part starts to change color and it starts to patina. And I think that is like one of the most beautiful fucking things ever. So when you first get the bag, when you get it like brand new from the boutique, it's essentially like a very like light beige, like cream like color. And like as you use it and like you know, take it with you over time, it patinas into this like nice, like deep golden, like honey like color. And it's just one of the most like beautiful things. And like that's one of the reasons why I love getting mine like secondhand and like pre-loved of my Vuitton purses because the patina is just so pretty that like I love it. Anyways, and so yeah, and so they do that intentionally because they essentially want you to use the bag and for the bag to patina and age with you because every time you wear it, the oils on your hand transfer over to the bag and slowly start altering it, you know? And I think that there's just something so interesting about that and how a part of yourself is quite literally becomes with the bag. Like your literal, like sometimes blood, sweat, and tears will go into the leather and become a part of it, which I think is just like so fascinating to like think about because like you don't really like wash it or like remove it, you know? I mean, you can like dust it off and do like a light like sanitizing, but like for the most part, it'll still be ingrained in the leather. And yeah, and so it's supposed to be like meant to be used and whatnot, and sort of like in the Vuitton community, it's almost seen as like a source of like pride, I guess, that like your bag has like a lot of patina because it means like you've used it a lot. It means that the bag has been traveled and loved and appreciated instead of just sitting in your closet collecting dust, you know? And I really just like enjoy that so much. The idea of having an object and not being like like holding it so dearly that you suffocate it, that you like don't ever let it be treasured. Hold on. Give me one moment. Let me see. Where was I? Oh yeah. And so like with that, I also think of like I also think of very much like the Olsen twins and Jane Birkin and how they use their Birkin so much that it's like fucking beat up. And like when people think of Birkins, they're like, oh, you have to have it this like, because you know they're like, oh, I'll keep it on there and like it'll what is it called? It'll be an investment and like you'll be able to sell it off more later and whatnot. But like Miss Jane Birkin, the essentially the OG, the creator of it, or the reason why it even exists, literally like use that bag like every fucking day. And like the Olsen twins made theirs almost look like a trash bag, like they like beat the fuck out of it. And I think that's just like so charming that like you can have something that like you enjoy so much and whatnot, and that like it does just sort of like transform and become a part of like your day-to-day life. Like I said, what makes sort of the Speedy so great is that it's meant to be an on-the-go and everyday bag. Like you have it and you take it with you everywhere and it becomes a part of your day-to-day routine. Like it's something you take when you go out, and like everything you get will go in that bag. And like with the Keepall, it's a big duffel bag in which you use to travel and whatnot. And like that bag now becomes a part of like precious memories in which you create these like experiences and whatnot. And yeah, it's not just like a throwaway piece. It's something that you collect and treasure for years to come. This bag that I have is pretty loved, and like I think it's like 20 years old now. So like somebody already had it for a good like 18 years before I even got to use it. So it's like that bag just has now so much like history and involved in it, and like has been shown so much love and so much also care and whatnot. And that's, you know, one of the things that I like love with things is not holding on to them so dearly. Yeah. And like also, by the way, like I should also like mention that this is all, I'm not trying to say that you like need to have a super expensive, luxurious item in order to like get this, you know, like it can literally just be like your favorite t-shirt or like a fucking shoelace. So, you know, it can be like anything you like love so much and like use it and whatnot. I just love the story of the the Vuitton and the vachetta leather and like whatnot. And like I love how succinctly they put it. And I just, for me, like I am able to buy into that and feel like I'm a part of that legacy or whatever. But yeah, it can really just be anything. This is just what my thoughts were at the moment, what made me like really sort of like put it more, yeah, succinctly, because the idea of like living in something and enjoying it has always sort of also been like a part of my brand and what I believe in, because so I used to make merch. And when I designed them with the idea and intention of them being used every day or as often as possible. Like I absolutely adore the idea of having a shirt, you wear it for so long that there's holes in it. There's like the seams are falling apart. You've had to patch it up 4, 5, 7 times. It like no longer has its original color. Half of it's fucking fading. Like, it's so like far gone, but like you still hold on to it. You still love it. Every time you put it on, you're just like, like I put it on and I'm like, I'm flooded with all of the memories again. And like, I like love that idea so much. And so when I like designed my clothings originally, it was with that intention of it being able to be dressed up or dressed down. And like when I made, for example, my like boys love boys and girls love girls and like all of my queer merch, I really wanted people to be able to wear that piece outside of just Pride. And so I wanted to make stuff that I would be able to wear year round and have it be essentially timeless. I love creating things that are timeless and whatnot. And so with those, I created it, the boys love boys and girls love girls. It was so that way people could dress it up. They could wear it for Pride and have it be like, oh, perfect, like on theme. But they could also like go on a random brunch or go have something and have it be just sort of like something more like casual and I carried that with like all of my other designs as well and try to make them so that way like you would be able to wear it for multiple occasions and whatnot. But the Pride one was just like the like one that in my mind was the most obvious of how you can use it very often. And so I like loved seeing people send me pictures of them wearing it like literally year round. I had people they're like go to like Disneyland with their best friend and be like matching or their partners be matching and stuff like that. And it's like so cute. And like it just brings me so much joy thinking that like that the memory of like going to something is now like that like ooh, excuse me. That this clothing is now a part of a core memory or something. That like maybe someone's first kiss was in this shirt. Maybe someone's first date was in this shirt. Maybe, someone's first day of class was in this shirt. Like, it can be anything. And, yeah, and so like the idea of like using that piece and wearing it as often and having it become a part of you and having it change constantly and evolve with you. And I think that I really do enjoy that idea and whatnot. And, when like people would ask me to make them also like custom garments, like, oh, can you like, I had a friend was like, can you sew me a dress? Or like, can you like paint on this for me or whatever? Like I would have people promise me like, all right, I'll do this for you. But you have to promise me that you will wear this every day until you can't anymore, essentially. And so because I was like, I don't want this clothing to be like if I paint on your jacket, like I don't want this jacket to just like say here, like I want the jacket to be able to be enjoyed and be able to be a part of your own history and your own memories and your own whatever, and like be able to also inspire other people who are seeing it as well, like if it's just sitting in the closet, like nobody else will be able to appreciate it as well, and like so that way other people can see and be inspired and find joy and find whatever in it. And yeah, and so like I would have people promise me, and they'd be like, "All right, I'm down," and I'm like, "All right, I'll do it for you then," you know. And that's also why, like, for me, I try my best to use my garments as much as possible. Like this, this red outfit I've had for like 4 years now, probably. And like, I still love it so much. And it's like one of my favorite outfits. And every time I do anything that's like art related, I guess, I try my best to wear this, you know? Um, do, 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 do. Yeah. And I also think that like when you allow yourself to sort of like use something or enjoy something, that like it's almost like a way of like giving yourself flowers and giving yourself this like this sort of what's it called, joy or satisfaction or something. Because like when you give someone flowers, like you're not just giving them, like I said, I'm like, it's not just like a clump of cells. Like you're giving them a rose, and like that rose represents a lot more than just like a plant. Like it's meant to represent like love and affection and blah blah blah, or friendliness or whatever the fuck. And so similarly with like clothing, or it can, again, it can be anything. That's why I brought up also the example of the Vuitton handbags and whatnot, and how anything could essentially transform from being more than just a piece of fabric or more than just a piece of leather. It is now transcended to become more of like a a memory, or like also like a, like I said, it can also be even like a gift to yourself. Because I often feel like people will like deny themselves like luxuries, or deny themselves like satisfaction, or deny themselves like just joy, you know, like if you can enjoy this chocolate bar, like why not, you know? um, you know, like you should allow yourself to be able to feel, yeah, just like self-love essentially, you know, like if you want that shirt and if that shirt makes you feel happy, like wear this shirt, you know, like why try to deny yourself happiness? And so, yeah, I think about that when like you wear my garments, or when you wear stuff like this, that it's like very much like you're allowing yourself to also be, oh my God, the word is on the tip of my fucking tongue. You're just like you're like allowing yourself to be not praised, but just like, I say all of that to basically, now that like you have a lot of understanding of like where my thought process is, of like why I believe art should be lived in, you know? Like I said, it's not just like a random ass slogan. It's something that I truly believe in, and that I try to practice in every aspect, or as least in as many aspects and parts of my life as I can. Everything from like the way I dress to the actions I do, you know? Yeah, like I really don't. When I think of like my art, I don't really think of it as just existing in a stale white gallery space. I sort of think of it as existing in somewhere in which it can be engaged and sort of appreciated in, you know? And like I feel like in order for my artwork to sort of like fulfill its role, it sort of like has to transcend beyond just laying on a wall. You know, it has to be a bit more than that. And I think that that philosophy of it just sort of like is deeply rooted in my art, you know? Like I said, I don't really want or really see my work in a white gallery space. I feel like if it is to be presented, it has to be sort of presented in a certain manner. Like for example, I love the idea of like if someone was to like buy the work, that it is displayed in their home and actually up instead of it just sitting in a storage unit, you know? Unless, of course, they are like unable to display because they're like, oh, I'm moving or I'm whatever. And like, that's fine. But otherwise, it should be, you know, displayed. And it's like, I love, you know, the idea of like it being in like someone's, like if it's, even if it's like in someone's bedroom, you know, like if you were to buy a piece, if you were to like gift it to someone or gift it even to yourself and like have it hang in like your bedroom and have it be the first thing you see when you wake up or the last thing you see when you go to bed. For me, I have one of my paintings in my bathroom, so it's like hanging on the wall parallel to the mirror. So as I'm brushing my teeth and I look in the mirror, I have my painting right behind me. So every time I'm brushing my teeth, I can like see my painting and like look at it in the mirror or turn around and like look at the painting. And like I really do just like enjoy that of like having it be something that you see very often and like are able to like look at it and reflect on it and like constantly be able to like use it as a way for you to like think and like process things and whatnot. And as you start to do this, like the work then again transforms and it's no longer just like the painting, it's like a part of you. Like now it's like a part of my routine of like brushing my teeth and there's a painting, you know? I wake up and then like maybe it's like, oh, when the sun hits it at this time of day, it like has a certain glow to it or whatnot. And you know, that's like even if like that's how if it's like in your own even if it's in your own like fucking bathroom or your own bedroom. I also love the idea of it being like displayed in like the living room or like the dining room table, especially the kitchen area or whatever. So that way, when you have like guests over or you're eating dinner or something like, and you're all like sitting there eating dinner, like it's now also it like now also has a seat at the dinner table with you, you know, it's now its own like entity there as well. And like your guests are able to look at it and like have it be a point of conversation or have it be something that like adds to the overall atmosphere and the overall vibe of the place, you know, like it's doing a lot more than just sort of like back there. It's like helping activate the space and helping it be more engaging and whatnot. And like even if it's like at home and it gets like I dinged up or knocked or scuffed or scratched or something happens, like I said, mine's in the bathroom. So like if I'm brushing my teeth and like a little part of what's it called, toothpaste gets on there or something, like I'm not gonna freak the fuck out because that's part of the work, you know? Like I feel like when you do stuff like that, that in a way it helps complete the piece, it helps fulfill the role. It's now an actual collaboration. Like it's not just me as a painting and me doing this, like it's now my work and you contributed to it, you know? Like now you have your own mark on the canvas as well. And this has now become like a joint venture. And I think that's such a like sweet idea of like you being able to have your own like legacy and your own self be a part of the work. And like I said, this also goes back to the idea of the Vuitton handbags and how like it's supposed to patina. It's supposed to change, you know, like that bag is supposed to like change and like those scuff marks of like your trunk and whatnot. It's supposed to be like, oh yeah, that scuff mark, that was when I was in Italy. The bag fell off the car, you know, like something fucking stupid. But like it doesn't have to be anything like crazy like that. It could just be like, oh, that was when do you guys remember our doggy Ronnie? Yeah, I miss him. That was his little paw mark on there. Like something like so cute like that. It's like, oh, like it's a part of it and like part of its own, it has its own history now. It has its own stories that it can tell. And like that's from just like being in your own like living room, you know? And like having others be a part of it and others be able to like appreciate it and whatnot. And like, yeah, and so like I think that if it wasn't to be displayed though in like a private setting like that. And if it was to be more public, I would love the idea of it being in a more like public, free, emphasis on free. If not, I'm gonna be, well, I guess there's only so much you can do, but preferably free museum. So that way anyone can have access to go view the work and engage with it and participate and like see it. And it would be much more appreciated also if it was in a space in which the space is disrupted, you know? Yeah, like here in Riverside, there's this museum that just opened up. It's called the Cheech, and it's so fucking, oh my God. It's like one of my favorite museums ever, and like it's just so unique in the way that it is. So the museum, it's entirely like Chicano art. And part of the thing that for me made it more special than it just being a gallery was it's sort of like a community thing. So the first time I walked in there, it was the first Thursday. So first Thursday of the month, it's a free museum. And I absolutely love that because I was able to go with my partner, and it was like on a Thursday afternoon. It was like 8 p.m. or some shit like that. And so we go in there, and it's a literal fucking party. Like there's literally like there's a DJ, he's playing his like cumbias and like playing merengue or playing whatever he was playing that day, and like people were like out there engaging. There was like someone painting outside. There was people dancing in the gallery, outside of the gallery. They had food there. There was like a little raffle going on, and like you would walk around the space, and like people were actually fucking talking during the pieces, you know, seeing the pieces and being able to like comfortably like speak to each other and be like, oh, what do you think that is? Oh my God, that reminds me of my tia. Like act like being able to like speak and like not feel like you're being sort of like watched or hovered over, or like feel like you can't speak or whatever. And I thought that that was like such a magical experience in which I've never really had at any museums. And I've gone to many museums, you know, I like love art museums, and I even worked at one. And like most of the time, they're just not very inviting, especially if you are not white. And like, so yeah, it's just like always just like unfortunate in other spaces. But like this one was just so great. And so like I can see my work existing in a space like that, in which, you know, even like the walls there aren't like the most like white gallery. Like there's like some parts of the museum that are literally like displayed on brick. Like part of the building is brick, so they have the work displaying on there, and it adds such a like nice break from just like your traditional white gallery space. And so like I can see my work existing in something like that, in which people of the community are able to show up and engage and be able to like look at it and take what they need, you know? They're able to, yeah, just not feel like they're separated from it. Like they can feel like, oh, this is for me too, you know? And like, I think that, because like growing up, again, I didn't have very much money. We were very low income. And so we couldn't really go out or do very much. But one of the few things I do remember doing very often was visiting museums, because it's free. And here in Southern California, there's quite a good amount of museums actually within like, even in my like Riverside area, there's within like 1 to 2 hours of driving, and like you can hit a good amount of museums. And luckily a lot of them are free. And I think that being able to like go and see and experience art like fundamentally changed the way I look at life and the way I do things. And so I think that, art should be for everyone. Who the fuck sent me an email? Yeah, that art should be for everyone or as accessible as possible because I want people to be able to, again, feel like they're a part of it. And I think that if my work is to be displayed somewhere publicly like this, I do love that, that people will be able to go into it, look at it, and be able to build their own memories. And like, like there's this one piece at the Cheech that I love going to, and I kid you not, like clockwork. Once a month during Art Walk, I will go in there. I've seen the museum dozens of times now, and I will go straight to this piece, like one piece, because I love it so fucking much, and I just sit there and just stare at it, like I love it, and I want to be able to do that for other people. Like I want to be able to create that experience for someone else. I want to do that for, the child in me and other people that like might not be able to purchase a $70,000 piece of work because who the fuck can? But they can go to this museum and experience the piece and be able to look at it and take pictures and like even draw one for themselves, like I believe that again, like art should be experienced and lived in and whatnot. And like, I also like, if it was up to me, I just give them all my pieces away, but I can't, and like, for me personally, I also don't have much of an issue if someone was to take a picture of the work and like print it at home so they could have a print themselves, as long as y'all ain't selling it and claiming it as your own, then that's a whole different issue and I will cease and assist you. If it's just you printing it out for yourself, like I have no issue with that. And I think that's so sweet because I used to do that all the time. Like I couldn't go to a museum and buy a print, but I could go home or go to my school library and print one out, And so I have no issue with people doing that because again, it goes back to the idea of like art should be lived in. You should be able to take this and like make it your own and be able to do things and whatnot. And like, yeah, so that's sort of, I guess, like the main idea of why I say art should be lived in and why I'm like, you should buy my art before I'm dead, Like, I think that this all just comes to say that you should be able to enjoy, appreciate, and like participate with the work while you still can, and like be able to allow it to change and grow. Yeah, hopefully this helps you understand my whole philosophy of art making, why I enjoy it, why I want people to be able to experience it and whatnot. What the fuck is that noise? Oh my God, an unrelated note, that's also partially of like why I do social media, because I'm like, I know that not everyone can go to a museum or go to be able to like print or do whatever the fuck for my work. But, a lot of people do have access to social media. And so seeing my work on there is also one way in which I try my best to have it be seen by and appreciated by as many people and help inspire people and help, be able to, just reach a larger audience that the physical piece might not be able to. Moving forward, I'm going to be sort of using this philosophy to like base a lot of my other works, and I'm going to just give you all like just sort of like a couple of brief ideas and concepts and whatnot that I will be executing in the near future that sort of like tie into this idea. And so one of the ones that I'm working on right now is the Mystic Garden, Blooming Flowers While I'm Still Here. And that is essentially, again, goes right back to the original point of my mom, in which, bringing flowers. And so this collection was meant to be like a literal thing about that. Like, I'm going to be painting flowers. Yeah, and so this collection is something that I started when I was at UCLA, but I unfortunately was unable to finish it just because of time, resources, mentally, I was not there either. And so now that I'm like actually able to do it, I'm gonna complete this like body of work, and the body work, the collection, sorry, is meant to be sort of like the like a literal garden in which you like walk into the space, and it's going to be like a whole bunch of different flowers and like different animals and people and whatnot. And the goal was for me to do a whole bunch of like mini paintings of flowers so that way I could give them to the people I love, so that way they could have a flower and have it be forever essentially, and be able to be treasured. And my goal with a lot of my work is also to become like family heirlooms, and have it be treasured for generations to come. And also have like a couple extras, so that way if anyone else wants to purchase one, so that way they can give it to a loved one or even themselves, they can. And like there'd be different like animals in this collection to sort of like expand on the idea of like a garden and whatnot, and explore different topics as well in each one of them. And like I want to do like paintings dedicated to like different members of my family. Like I want to do one of like my dad crossing the border and be able to like honor him while he's still here. I want to do one of like my mom and like my siblings and like my boyfriend, and have like a whole experience. When I first showed the collection at UCLA, I had like live flowers scattered throughout the exhibit, and like people were encouraged to like take a flower home and give it to someone they love, or take a whole bouquet. I had literally people take like bouquets home. And so yeah, I just want this collection to be exploring that idea, and like exploring like the literal flower paintings, but also like the metaphorical giving flowers of like celebrating people. Like I said, I want to do some honoring my family and being like, thank you for everything y'all have fucking done for me to be here. And like in addition to that, I want to do like a whole bunch of other, I want to try my best to do a lot more experience pieces and have it be so that way people can like physically interact with something. But again, that just takes time and money. And so we're working on it. Yeah. And like I'm also hoping to be making more like YouTube videos in addition to just this podcast, like have it be so that way I have like the documentation process of my paintings, so that way I can bring you all along on the journey as well, and like make more like clothing pieces. Like I really want to get into sewing and pattern making. Like that seems so cool. Difficult as fuck and intimidating, but I really want to design my own like shirt from the ground up or from, is that the right terminology? Yeah. From scratch. I don't know. And like do jewelry and like do a whole lot of shit. But that's all in the or not even far future, in the near future. Yeah, I just first wanted to introduce myself for those of you who are new, and also really just introduce and lay down everything I stand for and believe in. So yeah, with that, I'd like to just wrap it up and say thank y'all for listening. And hopefully this helps you have a better understanding of what I mean when I say art should be lived in, and why I create and do the work that I do. If you have any questions or anything, like please comment them down below. I'd love for this to be an interactive experience. Yeah. And of course, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Go check me out on Instagram. The whole shebang. And yeah, I don't know when I'll post again. These are going to be just more of like, when they come type of dealio. My goal is like once a month, but we'll see. Yeah. So, all right, everyone. Ciao. I love you.